Welcome to Practical Psychology Podcast, Episode 5. Today with Kyla. I'm Joseph Wong.
And I'm Allison Koo, co-host, and I'm very excited to introduce our guest today, Kyla. Kyla has lived a life of diverse experiences from being an alpinist, rock climber, growing up dancing ballet, including dancing on a cruise ship. Would love to hear about that. Playing the saxophone, being a geophysics crew leader, working with dynamite. Whoa, glaciologist, research technician, drilling holes in Yukon glacier and skiing 77 miles across an Alaskan icefield, and salmon research assistant working in a remote inlet off central coast of BC. She is fueled by a deep sense of curiosity, passion, and adventure. And Kyla is currently a mental health counselor based in Squamish, BC. Welcome, Kyla.
Thank you so much, Allison. What an introduction.
Such a varied experience. I can't wait to learn more about you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I really am a very curious human, which I think has led me into this beautiful field of counseling.
So, Kyla, with your diverse background and resume and adventures, how does it come into play in psychotherapy and counseling in a typical session?
I think at some point, well, I've always been curious about myself and others, and I think it's just been a continual evolution of wanting to learn more and being more observant to different interactions that I've had. And then there was a period in my life where I did have a severe accident that kind of changed my perspective. And I could no longer live the adventurous lifestyle I'd previously lived. So it kind of was a forced mental shift for myself. And I think what was fascinating was exploring the depths within myself led to changes in my recovery that were so substantial that it led me to wanting to continue to learn more about psychology and counseling and just how all the things interact, our emotions, our feelings, our behaviors, our sensations, and our thoughts. That I just want to learn so much. I became a counselor and I'm just continually learning all the time because it's a wonderful experience.
Well, Kyla, this is huge here. You mentioned about the life changes from being an alpinist, climbing mountains in wild environment, to having these accidents here. And you have to reset your bearings here. Counseling is a lot about changes here. Tell me more about that change.
Oh yeah, it was significant and kind of wild to go from being someone who was proud and so able-bodied to be able to do long days in the Alpine, carrying heavy backpacks and working in the geophysics industry. I carried batteries and cables across glaciers. And not only was like I loved the work, it was not anything I wanted to walk away from. To have I was a severe back injury where I struggled with walking for months and had help getting dressed and crossing the street. I could
Wow.
never cross the street until like before the light changed. It was just too challenging. So it was a really eye-opening experience about ableism. And I really had to do a reset on myself. And then it wasn't aligned with what my peers were going through because I was in my 20s and all my friends were still very athletic. And I present very happy-go-lucky, and able-bodied. So I had ran up to a lot of challenges within the medical system and not being believed for my story. So I think that also helped with learning how to advocate for myself within our system and learning, yeah, assertiveness and how to advocate for an invisible illness that I didn't even know I was developing at the time. So it took quite a few medical appointments and learning because pain science is actually really new. Well, it's not new, but there's been like huge gains in the last 10, 15 years where chronic pain has only been accepted within the ICD-11, I think, maybe 2019. So it's quite new that all the science is coming out to support the experiences that I've had, and it's also very validating. But there's still a lot of work to be done. So that's a very long answer to your question, Joseph.
For our viewers, our listeners, what does IC stand for? Was it
Oh, the ICD,
ICD?
oh my gosh, the international, what is it? The C disease. It's like the,
Classification of diseases.
thank you, the International
Okay.
Classification of Diseases, that's used more
Mhm.
internationally compared to the Diagnostic Statistics Manual, for psychology is used more within North America.
Gotcha. And thank you for sharing all of that. You mentioned that you weren't always believed. I was curious if you could say more about that and how that has maybe influenced your work now with your clients.
A wonderful question. And I think it's a really important one that when I'm working with chronic pain or chronic illness, individuals who have an invisible illness, um, I th I think they run into this almost stigma or not being believed by healthcare providers because of the different modalities. Like the biomedical model is really looking for physiological ailments. And then when physiological ailments aren't showing up on your screening, but you're still not able to do the activities, um, it's really challenging because I have a lot to say on this, but our cultural background is really that so focuses on the physical to validate pain. And
Hmm.
pain can be created by so many different factors, including um, like a fight with your partner can increase your pain, or having financial instability can increase your pain, despite what the present tissue damage is. So, pain is so much more complex than just having tissue damage, and that's not always realized within the medical system. So it's really frustrating when people are telling you, well, we don't see anything wrong with you, but you're like, I can't go to work because I'm having
Hmm.
so much pain. I haven't slept in years, and it's just really tough. And I think and then I think for me too, like knowing what your baseline is. So my baseline, because I was so active, was really high. So for me, I'd had a loss that other people were not acknowledging, and I was able to cope at some level, but I was experiencing a lot of grief because I wasn't able to continue to do the things that provided me joy or the work that I was able to do. So working in remote locations is a really high thing to do. Um, and then, yeah, changing that to having to be a lot more structured and managing my capacity, it was a huge change. So I think with not being believed, like the medical profession, I get it. Like they're triaging really, really sick people. Like I really feel like our system is just trying to prevent people from acute things and dying. So when you're walking in and you're like, I can kind of function, but not really, it's not looked at as important, or we also don't have the resources. And you also have to wait years to get in to see specialists. So I know in the chronic illness communities that I am involved in, the slogan is like in Canada, you're on a wait, like you're just, it's like you're waiting, you're just waiting. What was the phrase? Oh, I can't remember it now. But yeah, just like it'll come to me. But there's just so many wait lists. And like when you wait 2 years to get into a specialist and then 2 years for a surgery, and then if that surgery is not successful, and then you have to wait 2 years for like another thing, that's like 6 years of your life gone. So I don't think people realize that this how hard it is to navigate in the system until you're there. And then you're
Hmm.
also at a reduced capacity because you're there because you're not well, and now you're trying to take on this navigation role through the system.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Kyla,
So,
6 years of time is a long time. In
mhm.
Yeah,
6 years, people can finish a PhD or maybe even change career 2 times while an individual is suffering pain because people don't understood, including a lot of the healthcare professional.
absolutely. Yeah, and then you're kind of figuring it out for yourself too, because you're trying to figure out what's going on with and how to advocate for yourself. Um, and yeah, and time very much becomes nonlinear. We're trying to figure this thing out. It slows down and nothing happens. And yeah, I know my experience was lots of people got married and had babies, and I was just stuck in a healing process. And I know that's similar. Everyone has their stuck points.
Yeah, it almost sounds like it reminds me of something I appreciate about the biopsychosocial model, where not only are we thinking about the physical symptoms, but we're also thinking about the psychological ones as well. And I think if I'm understanding correctly, it's that the medical system is maybe very adept at, capturing the physical symptoms, the ones that are to what you were saying, like the visible ones, but the invisible, like psychological ones, I'm not sure. Maybe they weren't as well captured, or is that something that you're finding you're often having to work with your clients on?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And then it's because so pain is so complex, it has an enormous psychological component to the physical component, and always keeping in mind that like the biological affects the physical, physical affects the biological. And one of the phrases that is often used in the medical realm, that can be tricky is that pain is pain comes from the brain. And it has to be careful how that, you have to be careful how that phrase is delivered because the pain that you're feeling biologically is absolutely real. But when people offhandedly, without proper context in psychoeducation, say, well, the pain is all in your head, it makes you feel invalidated in the physiological responses that you're feeling
Mm.
and invalidated for your experience. And then I went through a phase being like, well, am I crazy? Like, are you telling me I'm crazy? And so people feel like they're just being dismissed and that their professionals are just telling them they're crazy and not necessarily providing the right timing or routes to access appropriate care. But with pain being so complex and having a psychological component to it, it is essential that they're working with a mental health provider, depending what that looks like. So research is demonstrating that a multimodal approach, especially with counseling or psychological care, is really important for progressing people through their chronic, at least chronic pain journey.
And Kyla, I want to jump on here to follow that topic because you have to sit on the sideline while your peers are getting married, having babies, doing active things.
Hmm.
And for that, you have letting go of their previous active lifestyles
Hmm.
and then have to do all this rehab, waiting for doctors. Can you tell us a little bit about that process? Because your community is lost at that moment. Where did you find your community at that time?
Yeah, so appropriate, Joseph, and that was a really hard shift for me. With me, I'm a very stubborn human. So acceptance was not easy. I think for me, a really appropriate or a really significant thing came to me is when I started accepting my capabilities in the moment. So instead of and realizing that if I did the things that I wanted to do in that moment, so if I just was like, I'm just gonna go climbing today, I would actually just be terrible and it actually wouldn't be an act of self-care. So in that, I worked on focusing on my capacities in the moment and then started reaching out to other groups of friends, which surprisingly, building a network of people, of women who were like post-delivery with their babies are all in the same yoga, like core rehab groups. And I made a lot of friends who were older women, which was really encouraging. So kind of shifting my friend network. And with that, because I'd held such a strong identity as being a strong climber person, I had to work on readjusting my identity to my current situation, which for me involves drinking strong Earl Grey tea. That is one of the things I love and something I know and hopefully will always be able to do. But I now also know that the only constant I know in life is change. So
Mm.
perhaps there'll be a day I can't drink Earl Grey tea, but I will re-identify somewhere else.
I I love that. Earl Grey tea has got to be one of the best teas out there. Um, I I'm curious as well. You talked about stigma, difficult topics, topics that are not often addressed. I'm wondering about some of the other like taboo subjects that that you deal with. For example, like yeah, any topics that you find that you often are working with clients on um, that you'd like to share.
Yeah, yeah, and I think, and I'm just really open and vocal in a sense of avocation because I think stigma and not talking about these things just makes it worse. Like, I feel like there's a shame component. So, when we're talking about self-harm, substance use, suicide, I think the more we talk about it, the more we shine light on many humans are experiencing these issues. And even just knowing someone else is talking about and open to talking about those issues, that that counseling can be a safe place to bring these things, I think can offer reassurance of um, not feeling crazy. Like I think there's so many people who just feel, oh my gosh, I'm doing these things or I'm having these thoughts or I'm not living in line with my values and I'm not sure why. But now I'm scared to talk about it because I'm stigmatized by society thinking I'm doing something wrong. And I really think that our behaviors are coping mechanisms or survival mechanisms for something that's going on within us. The first step is being comfortable and sharing those deep experiences with another human to be able to shine light on that and work through it. But if we're scared to talk about these subjects, I don't think it does anyone any good. So that's why I'm very vocal on being like, let's talk about self-harm. Like, it's a thing, it happens. Bring it in. Let's talk about suicide. Let's talk about your drug usage. Please bring it because I want to know more and then we can explore it together, what's going on, and hopefully you won't feel alone in the experience.
And Kyla, talking about advocating, you mentioned at that time you struggle to find that communities that understand pain, and you have
Mm.
to attend that pregnancy group here. And I wonder where are the other people with similar backgrounds that is
With
isolated, cannot reach out?
Yeah, so and that was like in the early like 2013, 15 time. So what's wonderful is Pain BC is actually doing a really great job, an organization I volunteer with. They've really ramped up their resources and they're getting a lot of funding from different resources to provide group wellness sessions. So there's like twice a month you can for free jump into a wellness support group. They also have pain health coaches that are set up to work one-on-one with people experiencing pain. And for myself, I one of my reasons when I really took the dive into becoming a counselor is I was looking for a pain specific counselor in my region and I couldn't find one. And I was like, well, if there isn't one, I'm going to become one. So that was kind of my really like drive to be like, well, we need that support. So there are different wellness groups and community support, and I think as people are learning that chronic pain is a thing, more people are talking about it and connecting. I know in my town of Squamish, there's like a skills shift group that for people who are just having injuries in our crazy athletic town and struggling with that loss of community to start rebuilding um, just different friendships and networks. And I also think just kind of looking outside your skill set or your friend group, there's lots of things out there. For me, I joined choir, and then this year I'm in improv, which is fabulous. So just like looking at other ways to connect with people that w weren't necessarily how you thought you would always be connecting with people.
So kind of you are a pioneer in many things, and you are still pioneer every single day here. I want to ask you about because I know you volunteer for 3 years as a pain coach and a group wellness facilitator. Tell us more about that when you work with people with chronic pain.
Oh, it's honestly one of the silver linings of my experiences. I think to be able to have that lived experience and connect with someone who's earlier on in their journey is quite the honor. And with yeah, I think being able to hold space for people who are in a similar position to where I've grown from just feels wonderful. And it was something like I wish I'd had at that time. So to be able to offer that is really rewarding on my behalf. And then hearing the complexities and differences, but then also encouraging, helping them advocate in the medical system. So hopefully they get through faster or with a little bit more ease or just not feeling as crazy is really wonderful. And then the wellness groups I've been a part of are just, there's a great sense of community there, of just trying to help each other out because I think we're all just the human experience is, I think, beautiful, and I really think connection makes our experiences more meaningful. And when you have had hard times, being able to connect on such a raw level is really special.
And Kyla, tell us in a typical wellness sessions, what do you facilitate and how does it look like?
So for my experience with Pain BC, they set up psychoeducation. They have a beautiful manual of psychoeducation pieces. So in those sessions, we have like a topic. So it might be like stigmatization that you're feeling, or uh, how to communicate to your families during the holidays about your illness. So they have a list of topics and we kind of cycle through them and we present the topic, but sometimes within session we go a little off topic and just talk about other stuff, which is healthy. So it's a blend of psychoeducation and support and being in connection with others.
Oh, Kyla here. Let's say for the viewers and listeners, let's say if you have a family member who just suffer a motor vehicle accidents, worksite injuries, sports injuries, or maybe an assault, a victim of a crime or assault here, what should they do to support their family member? As first thing.
Oh, that's a great question. And everyone, I think understanding that everyone's experience is unique and listening,
Listening.
listening to their story. And if you are in a place of capacity or being able to support, seeing, just checking in with them. Hey, like, uh, it sounds like you're in a really rough position or that experience was really challenging. Is there anything I can do to be supportive of you? Or what are your needs that you're not able to meet at this time? I think a lot of people aren't uh, don't take the time to reflect on what are their needs and what are their capacity. And especially when shifting, when you've had a capacity shift, it's really, really hard to ask for help and to ask for what you need. So that task of asking is really hard, and it is the individual's responsibility to ask for what they need. But if someone close to them is able to help them with that asking piece, it can be really helpful. Hey, I noticed you broke your leg and you have a standard vehicle and you can't drive to your medical appointments. Do you want to swap cars or can I drive you to your medical appointment? Just taking, if the person of support has that capacity, taking a note that you can offer support that meets with that individual's needs.
So listen, ask questions, don't make assumptions.
Precisely. Yeah.
I would even add too, like I love the emphasis on building a new support network. And I think something that really stands out to me from what you've been sharing is the like chronic, like living through chronic pain can be a really isolating experience. And in addition to learning to advocate, I can see building a new community, finding, yeah, like building a new support network. I can see how critical that really is for someone who's struggling in that position. So I love hearing about these groups that you're volunteering at and the fact that it is kind of psychoeducation, but part um, like support as well. I can only imagine how meaningful that would be for someone who to be able to meet others who are, sharing a lived experience.
Yeah. And just being in relation is, I think, not always having, I think people with chronic illness, or even it doesn't have to be chronic illness, even grief, like not having to talk about the suffering can be really helpful. And just to be with others, like playing board games, you just having
Hmm.
that human connection and almost that like unspoken understanding can be helpful. So in that, when you're looking for other groups or other ways of connecting, ensuring that it's a safe and welcoming space as well, so it doesn't uh, make you want to isolate more. So being mindful, being
Totally.
intentional about which groups you're reaching out to.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Mhm.
And kind of going along the same line here, supporting individuals, you support a lot of individuals with chronic pain. And in your observations here, helping people, they lost their identity, the key activities to adopting the next identity, the self-identity here. What do you observe as, let's say, two groups of people, one group successfully make the transition, the other group having a lot of difficulties? What are the distinctions?
That's a great question as well. And I think um, people get stuck. I think change is hard for a lot of individuals. And sometimes I think I would have labeled myself as one of those stuck people uh, because my identity was so wrapped up in my capabilities. So I think having someone that can help you with that acceptance piece of what are my capacities at this time and what is the type of life I want to live, because I can constantly be pining for something I'm not able to do, but where does that leave you? I think that's a big piece, and then acknowledging what freedoms you actually have in the moment. Because we're so good as humans to identify all the things we don't have. But when you start looking at all the freedoms you do have in the moment, I think big shifts can happen there. So I did have a practice where I'd wake up every morning and be like, okay, let's list as many things that I can do right now. And it would be like, I can breathe, I can blink my eyes, I can wiggle my toes, and I would go down this list and be like, wow, I'm actually like pretty functional. I'm in pain, but I'm moving, so that's cool. And start the day that way.
So, Kyla, here you're mentioning about a daily practice to look at
Mm.
things in a different way here. Okay, yeah. What are the exercises when you're working with people that help them to look at things outside of the box here?
Yeah, we do have to look outside that box. That box is holding us in a certain frame of mind, and if we want to change it, we do have to poke our head outside that box. So I think practices for me, I often recommend, and it's the cliche one of like looking gratitude, really developing some kind of gratitude that's authentic to you. So there's lots of different options. So when I'm working with individuals, I tr really try to find what is working, what type of mind shift can we bring into their unique experience and their life. So for some people, that's like listing the gratitude for the different friendships they have in their life before they fall asleep. Or for some people, it's one I use a lot is because most of us have a hot beverage in the morning, is slowing down and being so involved in that hot beverage and being grateful for it, just taking that moment of finding that joy and gratitude is one of the big ones I use. And people are often blown away of like how much joy that actually brings once you take that moment to slow down. And I really focus on non-task oriented joy because in our productive culture, a lot of us are only getting joy from ticking a box, which removes so many joyful experiences. So I try to really highlight those experiences, searching for those experiences within our day-to-day practice.
So Kyla, you're talking about there are more than one way to YOLO.
There is more than one way to YOLO. There's so many ways to YOLO. And get rid of
You are
that
the
FOMO.
expert in YOLO here.
Because it's true, you only live once, so let's get out there.
Excellent here. Kyla, I also want to ask you about, because you also happen to do some research for UBC, which is, if the viewers and listeners don't know, a renowned university in the West Coast, the University of British Columbia here. Tell us more about what did you learn something new from that research experience?
Ooh, my speakers just changed, so hopefully this is okay. So what I learned, I was actually a participant in this really interesting study. So it was a study that was looking at heart rate variability and heart rate, and it's linked to chronic pain. And it worked with individuals with fibromyalgia and chronic pain. And for people who don't know, fibromyalgia is a widespread pain condition. So there's many overlapping features between the two. But what was so interesting about the study is they found that your overnight heart rate impacted the intensity of pain you found the next day. So it was that direction versus the pain affecting your sleep. So it's just really curious, and there's a lot more to look at here. And that was something else that was really helpful in my pain journey, and I really support with others is looking at biometrics.
Mm.
So using external measurements because when you have chronic pain, your fire alarm system is it's a little excited, we'll say. So
Ah,
it's blowing off all the time. So to help you recalibrate, having an external data set can help you mentally kind of fine tune your sensations. So heart rate variability has been shown to really help with letting you know I don't want to get into too many details, but your parasympathetic nervous system piece. So yeah, using biometrics, steps is a great one. Like, so because their chronic pain kind of comes up and they're like, I don't know why. And I'm like, well, let's look at your metrics. Like, did you walk like more than you ever would over the last 3 days and then wonder why you're in pain? So how can we regulate this a little bit more?
it's interesting, Kyla, you talk about the biometrics combined with the psychology, because I know Allison, coming from the big tech, they collect a lot of biometrics too in a different ways.
Yeah, as you were saying that, I was thinking, I wonder what would be I like what would be the sort of bare minimum that you might recommend to a client if they're looking to start tracking biometrics? Because I know there's a lot of options that range from, you know, expensive to maybe not expensive. The Aura Ring came to mind, but I'm just curious to hear from you because I don't know as much about this area as you.
Well, and I'm still learning, like I'm always trying new things. So right now, it depends on the individual's impairment. And
Hmm.
I like delicately use the word impairment because I would get frustrated with it. So I think it depends what they want to do, because chronic pain is so unique to the individual. So if they're struggling with weight bearing, that's a lot different than if they're struggling with sitting or if they're struggling with like headaches. So even like the first type of tracking, I would say a timer. Like just your timer, like time how much you're doing an activity to know. And then we can create like a safe piece there. The next one a lot of people can use, but once again, depending on their journey, steps. How many steps are you doing throughout the day? And then a more higher end one is heart rate variability, because it's directly linked to parasympathetic nervous system function.
Mm.
I don't know if that answers your question, but oh, I'm just so excited about this. But like also sleep, like if they're able to track quality of sleep, because sleep is so paramount for people with these types of illnesses. So tracking how sleep affects and then the symptoms that they're feeling the next day or viewing before. Yeah, it's very unique to the individual. And like for a rough example is like one thing I started to do to rein in my symptoms was I was only allowed to weight bear for as long as it took me to make a cup of Earl Grey tea. So I'd be like, okay, I can do however many dishes I can do in this amount of time, and then I have to go sit down. That gave me
Mhm.
that metric to then build off of, versus if I don't have that metric, I don't understand what's going on.
Okay, time of the activity, tracking the sleep, and also the heart rate monitoring.
Yeah, so I get a lot of clients to write down the calendar just so that we can start finding, because if we don't know what the puzzle pieces are, we don't know how to put them together. So we start by
Mhm.
tracking all the pieces on a calendar. I slept this many hours, I walked this many steps, my pain was blank. And then we kind of can track it over time and then see what ailments there are there.
And Kyla, tell us more about the pain reprocessing therapy, because it is an evidence-based model based on research.
Yeah. So it is and it seems funky, but it's a model that helps you reframe or reconnect with the sensations that you're feeling. So essentially, it encourages you to be your own scientist about your symptoms. So if you're having pain, instead of jumping to like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna die, or like, oh, this is just terrible, it invites you to get curious about your symptoms. Oh, I'm noticing this sensation. Is it anywhere else in my body? Hmm. What else? Like just getting really curious about these things and then kind of steps you towards being able to reframe those symptoms and kind of just uh yeah, it aligns very much with a cognitive reprocessing therapy. But this one's specific for pain. So just looking at pain from different perspectives and being your own scientist and looking at your experience and then working to change it in a more positive direction.
So, Kyla, when you're working with clients with chronic pain, what is a typical pain reprocessing therapy session look like for the viewers and listeners?
Yeah. So it's not scary. It's not
So you
scary.
won't induce pain to them.
We won't reduce. No, 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 no. It really is. It really is just being like exploring things together, and then tracking things and seeing where you want to go to. Because what is it that you're not able to do that you want to be able to do? And then we make goals of what is stopping you from getting there and how can we uh, work to, it looks like us trying to find a way to turn down the volume on your pain and giving you the control of the volume switch. Because when patients first come in, they don't know there's a switch. It's just pain is overtaking everything and ruining their lives. And then it's like, okay, well, what behaviors and thoughts can we do to be able to gain control over that dial through getting curious about the sensations and experiences we're experiencing?
Oh, I like that. So it's like you're empowering them and slowly giving them a sense of autonomy over their own experience of pain.
Hmm. Yeah. And then when you have that ability to, one, know where the knob is and how to turn it, then things start getting safer. And then it feels more safety. Once you start being able to have more control, you can feel it. Versus the other way is pain and fear fuel more pain and fear. So you get caught in a cycle. So this is the antidote to that cycle.
Oh, today is
Thank you.
fabulous here talking to you, Kyla. And
Yeah.
Kyla, do you have any personal links? And if the viewer or listeners want to learn more about chronic pain, psychotherapy and counseling? How do they reach you?
Um, right now, just through my phone number, I would say, or my email, which is Kyla, Kyla, dot counselling, spelled the Canadian way with two L's at proton.me. That's probably the best way to reach out and go that way. But there's lots of resources. I highly recommend Pain BC. Curable is a program based out of the States that also has a lot of information. And the Pain Canada website is really great too and has lots of options for increasing awareness about chronic pain and resource lists.
Okay, we'll make sure to put it in the comments and the description so the viewers and listeners can ask for further questions.
That sounds great. And I welcome them. I'm so excited.
Oh yeah, we are very happy to have you here, Kyla. We will invite you again for the podcast.
I would love that. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for meeting today.
Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much
much,
for your
Kyla.
time, Kyla. It was great to talk.
You too.